Hello, welcome to Aliensearcher's Paranormal Podcast, Halloween edition. As we near the midnight hour on Halloween night, I figured I'd give you some of my favorite short ghost stories that I can clump in as one grouping. The most Halloween-esque being the ghost in the hallway. And I figured, well, I was in the same geographical location as that one, I'd throw in the demon dog story, as well as a few other small ones. Okay, so the ghost in the hallway. That was Halloween Day, I believe, around 2018, 17 or 18. My kid was at the far end of the hallway. I was at the living room end of the hallway. In between the two, we have a small little end table in the middle of the hall, or like in the middle of the hallway, but off to one side, of course. And it's got kind of a dip in the center so that the sides are raised up and then the center area is flat. And on it was a single screwdriver, nothing else. There's no way that the screwdriver could roll off because, like I said, the edges were flat and it had been sitting there literally for days and hadn't moved. We were approximately 10 to 12 feet away from it, both of us, but on opposite ends of the hallway. And we were just having a general conversation about who knows what. And all of a sudden, the screwdriver just jumped off the table and landed in the middle of the hallway. After looking at each other shocked for a second, I said, it must have been wishing me wishing me a happy birthday, because Halloween's my birthday. And we kind of left it at that and kind of went on from there. Later that day, we went to a local wild animal sanctuary, basically. I don't want to give too specifics because I don't want to give away my location, of course, but it rained so hard that night. It was ridiculous. We could barely see any animals. We were literally like, I could take my shoe off and literally pour water out of my shoe. It was raining that hard. And most of the animals, unfortunately, stayed in their shelters, and so we weren't able to see much. But I took some pictures of what I could, and there was one mountain lion den that I could see kind of in the den. It was really dark. I could see that the mountain lion was in it, so I went ahead and took a picture of that. And took a picture of lots of other things while I was there. When I got home and looked at that picture, I could see a wolf inside the den with the mountain lion. And I have not been able to actually post it clear enough, because every time I try to post the picture, the resolution's so crappy, it's like it degrades the resolution when you try to post it, so you really can't see it. And then even looking at the picture straight on my phone, it's really hard to tell, so it's not like it's going to be like huge piece of evidence or something, but I might post it later as like in my community section of my page on YouTube, because I was trying to get the stream started before midnight and kind of had limited time. So then a few years later, living in the same place, I'd gone out to the trash and threw something in the trash, started to walk back at night. And that's the picture on your screen now. That is the location where I was standing approximately, and the blue mark is where I saw what looked like a black dog. No, it didn't have glowing red eyes. No, it didn't growl or anything weird like that. It just looked like a black dog with its head hung kind of low, like it was trying to look. Now, the thing is, obviously, doing ghost stories, I've seen a lot of ghosts, and they really don't scare me much. I've had some really nasty ghosts I've dealt with, and it's just not something I'm generally scared of. They're just there. You get the heebie-jeebies a little bit, but nothing really too scary. But this, and again, same with dogs. I worked at a major pet store for 7 years. I literally had a great big, like, bull terrier of some sort. It wasn't a pit bull, it was bigger, but it started charging at me one time, and there's not really anywhere I could run in time to get away from it, and I knew that running would just get it to get me if I didn't have a safe place to get away from it. I stood up to it and just yelled no at it, stood tall and yelled no, and I actually backed off. So if I can stand up to that big, huge dog without fear, I sure the heck shouldn't have been afraid of this medium, maybe 30 to 50 pound little black dog that was staring at me. But I don't know what it was about that dog that just felt like pure evil, and I just had this overwhelming feeling that if I didn't get away from it right now, it was going to get me. So I ran into my place, which is unspecified, actually. Ran into my place, and immediately called my neighbor and said, go outside with your flashlight, stay on the phone with me, let me know as soon as you get outside, and I'll meet you outside with a flashlight. I was convinced this had to just be a normal dog, and I was darn well determined to prove it to myself that this was just an average, ordinary, normal dog. So he met me outside with the flashlight. Once he was outside, I went out there with my flashlight, and I told him what happened, and we walked around looking for this dog, and we walked around the whole trailer park, and there was no dog. And so we're like, okay, well, it must have just left. It must have just walked out of the trailer park and went on its way. So I'm like, okay, it had to have just been a regular dog. Trying to dismiss this is not what it seemed like. About a half an hour later, I get a call back from the neighbor, and he says, I think you better come over and take a look at this. Basically, he had pulled up the security cameras for the park, and what it was it showed exactly when I looked that direction, but 15 minutes before that to 15 minutes after that, the camera that was pointed towards that dog was completely out. It was a static. There was nothing on the screen. He'd never had that happen before. It was that one camera that was pointed at the dog was out for 30 minutes with that time period exactly in the center of it. So that was weird enough to be like, that makes you wonder what the heck that was. But then he'd also checked every single other camera. And he has his place pretty well covered with cameras. If something comes in or out, you can't miss it. And there's only certain ways you can go in or out. There was literally no dog that came in or out of the trailer park from an hour before that to the time that me and him were out looking for it. We checked if it could have passed us while we're out looking for it and everything, and there was just no sign of it. This day, I have yet to find anyone who has had a similar experience that wasn't like it growling or having glowing red eyes or some other dramatic thing. So I'm thinking that whatever this was something specific to this particular spot. We did also see, I did cover the dog barking sounds that we've heard inside the house. I don't think that's the same thing. It didn't have that same feel to it. We did see, or my kid saw a ghost cat the other day on our way home. Just a black cat with white paws. And when we got closer, it was gone. What else has happened here specifically? Oh, when we first moved here, we were a little concerned about something that might have followed us, and that's definitely going to be another story. It's going to be a long other story. But we basically had kind of smudged the place, and I'm not sure if I believe in the whole sage smudging thing or not, but we just wanted to make sure all our bases were covered, because what followed us up here was definitely something along the line of a poltergeist, and like I said, that's going to be for another story. But when we first moved in here, we went through the entire place with the property manager and made sure everything looked good, and all the walls had been newly painted. They all looked good. We checked every single room closely, and I'd run into problems before with inspections, things being overlooked. So I was being particularly careful to look carefully. The other person that moved in with me also did the same thing, inspected everything closely. After that, we moved all of our stuff in, and of course, when you're first moving in, you have a lot of boxes. We had put a bunch of boxes and other stuff up against one wall of my kid's room, and it was covered pretty thoroughly. Like, there's no way that it could have been reached by anyone without having to take down all the boxes, which wouldn't have been an easy task. It would have been hours just to get to that wall, probably. Once we did get things unpacked and got it more unpacked, we ended up uncovering that wall, except that now, instead of a nice, clean, newly painted wall, there were marker swirls all over the wall. I know for a fact that there's no way anyone could have reached that wall with a marker. It was not, my kid was out of that age and couldn't have done it anyhow. Those boxes would have been too heavy. So at that point, we figured we had a bit of a ghost, but probably a kid ghost. We all kind of pick up on a kid beingness around here sometimes, off and on. And my kid actually saw a lady in a dress towards my room. And my room's been kind of interesting because sometimes before something weird happens, I mean, like, I don't mean like ghost-wise, I mean like normal real-life junk happens, one light in my room will go out. And the weird thing is, it's not the bulb blown. I can change the bulb and it'll still be out. I can leave it alone for a week or a few days or whatever, and it'll come back on its own. And this totally varies. It can be working perfectly fine for months and months, and then it just goes out for a couple days. And doesn't matter what I do, whether I tighten the bulb, change the bulb, no matter what, it just comes back on its own. It never flickers. It never acts like there's a poor connection or anything. It just will be on normal for months and months, and then it'll just take a couple days off. And then it'll be on normal for months again after that. Let's see, are we at midnight yet? We have reached and passed the midnight hour of Halloween night. We are now into All Hallows Eve. Just a couple quick stories that are just going to be too short to do a whole show on their own on. Is one place I lived in Arizona, we had a washing machine by the back door. It was me and a guy I was living with and his brother there. The brother is in the living room. I'd gone in the kitchen and I'd seen someone over by the back door, over by the washer and dryer. And I thought it was the guy I was living with at the time and didn't think much of it. And then I went to get something out of our room and he was in there. And I'm like, wait, you're over by the laundry room. You're over by the back door a minute ago. And he's like, no, I've been in here the whole time. I would have seen him if he would have passed me. So I went back over and there was no one over there and the door was locked. A similar thing, one place I lived, basically it had a hallway with my room at the end and a bathroom in the middle. I was living with my dad at the time. I had my dog Barkley that was in the previous story. And there's something about that hallway because Barkley would stare down that hallway and just growl at times. Well, one day, okay, so I believe there was a second room in the hallway, but it was used for like storage or something because my dad was claustrophobic, so he always had a bed in the living room, always slept in the living room. So one day I was coming, okay, another important detail to the story actually is that my dad wasn't like, again, he was claustrophobic. He didn't close doors behind him generally unless he absolutely had to. So it wouldn't be abnormal for him to be in the men's room, restroom, and not have the door closed. It was like a privacy thing. We respected each other's privacy, and I wouldn't look that direction or anything. I'd just go on my way. But this one particular day, I was coming out of my room, and through the corner of my eye, I see what I assumed was him standing in the bathroom. And of course, I didn't look because privacy, you know. So then I kept going down the hallway, entered the living room, and my dad was in the living room, sitting on his bed. I'm like, wait, how'd you get past me? I just saw you in the bathroom. And he was like, no, I've been sitting here on the bed the whole time. Again, this is one of those things where it's like a narrow hallway. There's no way he could have passed me. So, of course, we went back into the bathroom to check, and sure enough, no one was there. Back door was locked. I'm sure I have lots of other little ones, but I think that pretty much covers the ones that have happened while living here, and a few of my short ones. If I think of some other, I know I have lots of other short ones from Fig Springs. I'll do those all in one episode probably. Or even, those ones might be long enough to split up into multiple episodes. So anyhow, I hope you have a great Halloween, and hope you enjoy the show. And please, if you're on Twitch, leave me a follow. If you're on YouTube, leave me a like and subscribe. And please check out my other channels as well if you're on YouTube. And I really appreciate your time spent with me on this Halloween night. Have a good night and stay safe.